Order number 11, motion, the establishment of the National Dialogue Committee.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move that this motion on order number 11, that aware that Article 1(1) of the Constitution provides that all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with the Constitution. Further aware that Article 1(2) of the Constitution provides that the people of Kenya may exercise their sovereign power either directly or through their democratically elected representatives. Conscious that Article 10 of the Constitution espouses the national values and principles of governance, which include the rule of law, democracy, and participation of the people. Further conscious that Article 94 of the Constitution provides that Parliament manifests the diversity of the nation, represents the will of the people, and exercises their sovereignty. Recognizing that there is need to embrace consultation, dialogue, and consensus building as a way of resolving issues of concern to the people of Kenya. Cognizant that despite the constitutional and legal reforms on the electoral processes and the electoral laws, after every election cycle there has been a mistrust of electoral outcomes, leaving the country divided. Further cognizant that efforts to enhance constitutionalism, the rule of law, and respect for human rights need to be promoted. Aware that there have been previous calls and attempts at building consensus on issues of concern to the people of Kenya through bipartisan engagements in Parliament, appreciating the need to establish an inclusive forum for dialogue, consultation, and consensus building in seeking to promote the peace, stability, and prosperity of the country, acknowledging that the majority party in Parliament and the minority party in Parliament have agreed to embrace dialogue through the establishment of a National Dialogue Committee to recommend a way forward on issues of concern to the people of Kenya. Now, therefore, the Houses of Parliament resolve as follows. 1, that the two Houses of Parliament establish a National Dialogue Committee consisting of 10 members to represent the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, Kenya Kwanza, a coalition consisting the majority party of the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya, and Azimio la Umoja, one Kenya coalition party, Azimio, a coalition forming the minority party of the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya. 2, that each coalition shall appoint 5 members to the National Dialogue Committee. 3, that the membership of the National Dialogue Committee shall be drawn from Parliament and outside Parliament. And 4, that the National Dialogue Committee shall comprise the following members to represent Kenya Kwanza. 1, the Honorable Ihungwa, Delegation Leader. 2, Governor Cecily Mbarire, Deputy Delegation Leader. 3, the Honorable Senator Aaron Cheruyot. 4, the Honorable Omar Hassan, Omar. And 5, the Honorable Catherine Wambilianga. 5, that the National Dialogue Committee shall comprise the following members to represent Azimio. 1, His Excellency Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, Delegation Leader. 2, the Honorable Pio Wandai, the Deputy Delegation Leader. 3, Honorable Amina Mnyazi. 4, Honorable Eugene Wamalwa. And 5, Honorable Senator Okongo Mugeni. 6, that the mandate of the National Dialogue Committee shall be to facilitate dialogue and consensus building and recommend appropriate constitutional, legal, and policy reforms on issues of concern to the people of Kenya, to be framed by the National Dialogue Committee in line with the Constitution and the laws of the Republic of Kenya, respecting the functional and institutional integrity of state organs. The Houses of Parliament notes that the technical teams representing Kenya Kwanza and Azimio shall support the National Dialogue Committee, that the technical team representing Kenya Kwanza shall comprise the following persons: Dr. Mudhomi Thiankolu, Dr. Linda Musumba, Dr. Duncan Ojwang, and Nick Biketi. That the technical team representing Azimio shall comprise the following persons: 1, the Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, Professor Adams Olo, Abubakar Zain Abubakar, and Lynn Ngugi. That further the National Dialogue Committee shall be assisted by 2 officers designated as communication secretaries, one of whom shall be appointed by the leader of majority party and the other by the leader of minority party. The Houses of Parliament further resolve that the National Dialogue Committee shall formulate and adopt a framework agreement to guide the bipartisan talks. 12, that the National Dialogue Committee shall report to the leadership of Kenya Kwanza and Azimio coalitions within 60 days, and after that, submit its report to Parliament. 13, that in the execution of its mandate, the National Dialogue Committee may invite, engage with, and consider submissions from stakeholders, collate views from the public, and engage experts, professionals, and other technical resource persons as necessary. 14, that the National Dialogue Committee shall determine its own rules of procedure. And finally, 15, that the speakers and clerks of both houses of Parliament shall provide secretariat and other necessary support to facilitate the work of the National Dialogue Committee. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as I move on, Honorable Speaker, allow me just to mention a few things, and members will appreciate the need for this National Dialogue Committee. Honorable Speaker, the country and members are aware that this was a result of a meeting that His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, in his capacity as the 5th President of the Republic, held a meeting, a consultative meeting, with the leader of the Azimio One Kenya coalition, former Prime Minister, the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga. Honorable Speaker, you know, there are very many sensitivities around titles. And I am used to being referred to as Kimani Ihungwa without any titles. But for those who are sensitive, may I take it again, a meeting between the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, and the leader of Azimio One Kenya coalition, and our former Prime Minister, His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga. And I hear the Honorable Kainan telling me, AKA Baba. Honorable Speaker, these are 2 eminent leaders in our country. And the 2 eminent leaders met and agreed that there was need to dialogue as a people, as a country. Because even the Holy Book tells us that we should come together and reason together. And this is a call for Kenyans to come together and reason together. Honorable Speaker, this National Dialogue Committee has been established with the representation of Parliament, and by Parliament it means both houses of Parliament. That's why you see there are members from the National Assembly and members from the other house in the Senate, represented by Senator Aaron Cheruyot and Senator Okongo Mugeni. Honorable Speaker, the committee also has membership from outside Parliament, represented in the Azimio One Kenya coalition by His Excellency Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, who is the delegation leader, and the Honorable Eugene Wamalwa. On the Azimio side, the Honorable Cecily Mbarire, our deputy delegation leader from the Kenya Kwanza side, and the Honorable Senator Omar Hassan Omar, former Senator Mombasa, who are representing, who are our representatives outside of Parliament. The answer is not, Honorable Speaker, from the parliamentary and extra or outside parliamentary engagement in this process. But appreciating, Mr. Speaker, that whatever will be agreed on out of this dialogue endeavor will need to have legal anchorage, is what informed the National Dialogue Committee in our first and second meetings to agree by consensus that we needed a motion like this to give effect to that provision that we have some legal anchorage, so that whatever we engage on during the dialogue process has a basis even to find itself either on the floor of this House or the other House, Honorable Speaker, should there be legal, not legal, legislative interventions, should there be constitutional interventions that are required, Honorable Speaker, we will need them to have some legal anchorage, and that is the whole essence of this motion. Honorable Speaker, allow me to disabuse a number of myths or misinformation that has been peddled by many people. One is that this is a dialogue process to engage with the minority or with the opposition with a view to getting them a foothold in the Kenya Kwanza government or in the Kenya Kwanza administration. Honorable Speaker, I am certain I speak for the Honorable Pio Andai and the Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka as the delegation leaders and deputy delegation leaders of the Azimio One Kenya coalition. And indeed for the former Prime Minister, who is on record saying that he is not interested in either a handshake or what has been christened a Nusumkate government. And therefore, we must disabuse that notion that this dialogue process has anything to do with handshake, Nusumkate, or access to power by the minority in government. We want to entrench constitutionalism and the rule of law in our country, so that after every election, whoever wins an election is allowed to govern and govern in peace. Whoever loses an election knowing that there is tomorrow, and you will have another chance to fight. And you play your role in putting the government that is in office on its toes. And I am glad, Mr. Speaker, that today we have a president who has no problem with being held to account. We have a president who, through the memorandum that he sent to the speakers of the parliament last year, invited the House to consider amending our own standing orders, and we are just from that session, Honorable Speaker, where cabinet secretaries now appear on the floor of the House to answer to questions put to them by the people's representatives in line with the provisions of Article 1 of the Constitution, which is the opening or the preamble of this motion, that the people of Kenya can exercise their sovereignty either directly through their elected representatives or themselves directly. And it is that sovereignty that the people of Kenya are exercising through their elected representatives by holding cabinet secretaries to appear before the House and account. Honorable Speaker, I'm happy that you noted there are members who are asking questions and walking out. And I want to plead that we do not use this question time or questions and statements time on Wednesdays to play to the gallery, but we utilize that time to hold the government to account, to ensure there is transparency in the conduct of business in government. There is accountability, Honorable Speaker, and we can hold those that we have charged with responsibilities in the executive to account for the time that they have been given to serve the people of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, that is the essence of this dialogue. We want to dialogue with our colleagues in the opposition for them to be able to take up their role as the minority in government, because they are also part of government but serving in the minority, to hold government to account, to join us as we offer meaningful oversight over government, Honorable Speaker. And as Parliament, and more so the National Assembly that is charged with a huge mandate and responsibility under Article 94 and 95 of the Constitution, including the budget making process, Honorable Speaker, we must then rise to the occasion to ensure that we don't just appropriate resources to government institutions, government ministries, departments, and agencies, but we also, as the National Assembly, offer meaningful oversight to ensure that we don't only speak about corruption, but this House, and allow me to repeat, this House, not any other House, this House that appropriates resources, also holds people to account over the resources that have been charged to be under their responsibility and care. In trust, on behalf of the people of Kenya, who are the owners of these resources, Honorable Speaker, that they pay through taxes, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the second thing I would want to disabuse is the notion again that has been created that those in the minority are seeking through this dialogue process, Honorable Speaker, someone is whispering handshake. I don't know why people are over-obsessed with the handshake. And I said none other than the former Prime Minister has said he is not interested in a handshake. And I can confirm here, in the first meeting, the delegation leader from the Azimio and Kenya coalition came with a written speech. And I jokingly told him it is for the avoidance of doubts. He wanted to make sure that it is clear that the Azimio and Kenya coalition is not interested in a handshake. Because we had also said from the Kenya Kwanza coalition that we have no space, we have no time for handshakes, nusu mkate, share of government. We want to ensure that we build a country where constitutionalism and the rule of law, respect for institutions that have been established under the Constitution, Honorable Speaker. And I know there are issues, and if you read the motion, Honorable Speaker, we have left it to the National Dialogue Committee, after framing of the agenda items, Honorable Speaker, to agree on what the agenda items that we shall be dialoguing on are. Aware, Honorable Speaker, that there are 5 agenda items that we have a brief on. There are also another 4 or 5 agenda items that our colleagues from the Azimio coalition have brought on the table. And we have said it is time to listen to each other. It is time to listen to our colleagues on the views they have on the cost of living. As much as we firmly believe that it is a duty and responsibility of any administration anywhere in the world that is charged with governing a country to ensure that they formulate policies that will bring down the cost of living and make life bearable for the people that they are governing. But we also believe that it is the role of the minority, of those who are not in government, to make sure that those who are in government implement the policies that they sold to the people of that country. And in this case, the Kenya Kwanza administration went out, campaigned on the platform of the plan, or the manifesto that was christened the plan, that had policy propositions that government is implementing. Honorable Speaker, that does not mean that those in the minority have no say. In fact, in a constitutional democracy like ours, it is said the majority have their way and the minority have their say. And that is what we are saying. We are ready, we are willing to listen to our brothers and colleagues in the minority because they are Kenyans and they belong to this country. But we have also been firm that we cannot, as the people charged with the responsibility to govern, be forced to implement an agenda that was not sold to the people of Kenya by Kenya Kwanza. And therefore, we shall be framing the agenda items, Honorable Speaker, to agree to what extent do we listen to each other. It is not given that we will agree on all items, and we have said this in the dialogue committee, and my brother, Honorable Pio, will bear me witness. We shall agree. We are also bound to disagree on a few issues. But that should not give occasion to anybody in this country to ever instigate violence because people disagree. We must always seek to dialogue and agree to speak to each other. Honorable Speaker, the other thing I believe that we have all agreed as a nation, which was very important for us as we got into this dialogue process, is that never again in the history of this country, Honorable Speaker, shall we ever use violence to transact political engagements in our country. Never again. We should never use violence. Honorable Speaker, I was saying that is why you see in this motion, there is a mention on the respect not just to the rule of law, the Constitution, but also the promotion and respect to human rights. So that again, Honorable Speaker, we build a nation where there is respect, not just for the Constitution and the rule of law and institutions, Honorable Speaker, but also for human rights. That I must respect the rights of those in the minority just as I expect them to respect my rights. And that includes the rights to govern. And nobody should ever use violence to stop another person from peaceably governing the country. I want to believe beyond this dialogue process, whatever the outcome will be, we will have a better country. We have been charged with a huge responsibility, Mr. Speaker, to midwife the rebirth of our nation. Those who have been ahead of us, Honorable Speaker, played their role in the birth of the young Kenyan nation 60 years ago. 60 years after independence, it is us here today who are charged with that heavy responsibility to midwife the rebirth of our great nation, Kenya. I want to beg that we all join hands to midwife the rebirth of our nation, protect our democracy, and build a strong, united, and prosperous Kenya. With that, I beg to move and invite the Honorable Opio Andai, the Leader of Minority, to second.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Speaker. And I rise to second the motion. I can see the Honorable Ihungwa's speech has elicited what would amount to standing ovation.
Order, Honorable Salasia, no understanding orders allows you to clap in the House.